Welcome back to the Man That Can Project podcast. We have another brilliant guest. We've been on fire with the incredible men that I've been able to, interview and learn over the last couple of weeks. And today's no different. We've got Geoff Duncan. Geoff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, Lockie.
Dude, it's a pleasure. We got connected through some mutual friends, John and Hume, maybe 6 weeks ago or so, probably longer actually, here in Nashville. And one thing that I'm always drawn to is men like yourself who can really hold what I would consider to be a interesting conversation where we can actually talk about things that are going on in your life, why you're pursuing certain things. For me, it's very intriguing and I get very curious. And I remember saying to that night, I feel like there would be so many nuggets that we could get from a conversation that many of our audience could learn and listen to. And you're obviously an extremely talented music producer. You're a Billboard charting producer. And for those who don't know what that means, it's a big fucking deal. Like the Billboard charts is the biggest charts here in the States. But other than that, man, you're someone who's chasing their dreams. You've moved from New Zealand over here to America as well. And you've been here for a lot longer than I have, obviously. But you're a great father and also a great role model and someone that I've known only for a couple of weeks, but you've already had such a profound impact on my life. And I think just for the audience, the incredible thing about when you get to a point in your life and you know who you are and what you stand for and what you want, it makes it very easy to connect really quickly with people and figure out those that you want to spend more time with and those that you probably never want to see again. And Geoff, you're one of those people that I was like, the more time I can spend around this bloke, the better my life's going to be. So welcome.
Oh, that's very kind, man. Thanks, dude. Mutual. I feel the same way.
But dude,
loving the morning plunges and running videos, mate. That's inspiring stuff,
Well, I can't wait to get into hit the morning plunge together. I just saw George literally jumped in about 5 minutes ago. So
legend, crushing it.
He's keeping it going. But Geoff,
that's great.
I'd love if you could give a bit of a background to everyone, and then we'll dive into it. Just where you're at in life, how you got here, and we'll take it from there.
Love it, man. Yeah, well, I mean, from New Zealand, been in America since 2012, so it's getting on for 12 years, and that's been a fun adventure with peaks and valleys, as all the best stories have, and I'm 52. I have two daughters. My oldest is 25 and she lives in Sydney. She works in the fashion industry for Louis Vuitton, and she has a lovely spot a block back from the beach at Bondi. So she's doing great and loving her life down there. And then my youngest daughter, Nika, lives with me here in Franklin, which is about 20 minutes south of downtown Nashville. So we're just kind of south of the city, and it's a bit more low-key. Came to Franklin because the schools are really good. And so Nika graduated last summer, and she is an amazing songwriter and music maker in her own right. So she lives with me here in Franklin at the house while we wait for our green cards to come through. And then I'm sure she will fly the coop and go and pursue her thing, which is kind of astounding, really, what she's kind of doing already, and everyone's like, oh, she's so lucky to have you as a dad. She's learned it all from you, or what, the usual assumptions that we would make about kids who are doing the same thing that their parents do. But honestly, it's like, never pushed her into music. She just got a laptop of mine and started messing around and started composing for the school orchestra in middle school. And I mean, just amazing stuff, And so, and I'm here, I make music for a living. I'm a songwriter. I produce for other artists. I sing on stuff for chill house DJs, and I do a lot of stuff for film and TV, including a project that me and Nika have that is this sort of dark Nordic cinematic stuff. And then I write and produce in a bunch of genres for dance music, work with DJs in Amsterdam and whatever. And, I'm kind of all over the map in music, and I really love that. Keeps it fresh and inspiring. And I love so much different music that, to be a part of creating so many different kinds of songs is really special to me. And I think my main thing I'm sort of trying to do on that front is just make real tangible emotions come from the speakers, so it's really anything that I can help do that with feels like something I want to be a part of, so that's kind of the music stuff. And I have a great community of people here. I'm divorced. My marriage came to an end in March 2022. So we can talk about that. We don't have to, but that's just kind of where I'm at in life, as you said. So have been doing some growing and healing personally. Obviously, that impacts your work and your general sense of happiness on a number of levels when things like that happen in your life. And I'm sure some of the people listening have experienced that or are going through that. And to those people, I would say that on the other side of healing is a lot of happiness and freedom and peace and acceptance and forgiveness are all part of that journey. And absorbing those into the rest of who we are, not just because of a relationship catastrophe, has been an enormous part of the trajectory that my life is on. So, didn't enjoy the process at the time, but I'm very grateful for the fruit of that healing and forgiveness process that ensued, So, and it's just opened so many doors just because of who you become through that process. So I think that's a really important part of where I'm at in my life, as you sort of said, yeah. So that's kind of where it's at, man. Just making songs, trying to grow, trying to heal, trying to be a better version of myself, and being open to be inspired by the things around me, and trying to, I guess, embrace the welcome that people offer me, like yourself, to come and share and learn. And I've been so inspired by watching your various pieces of content, whether they're little reels of you running along a track, just going hard for 1,000,000 days in a row, or just, other insightful things that people that have come on the podcast have shared, whether it's about finances or just inspiration or determination, like health and fitness. Like I went through a big health transformation after my marriage ended too, which is such a cliche, but I lost 50 pounds and feel great. And just, I mean, just really trying to be someone who takes control of their life and fights for it to be as long and fruitful and happy and contribute really for as long as possible. I think that's really sort of, that's where I'm at. That's a long way of saying all of that, but that's a good start.
Perfect. One thing that's really stood out from everything that you just said then was it feels like there is no bitterness towards your ex-wife. Relationship breakdowns are quite common, as we know. There's a lot of statistics around it. There's a lot of data. We also know within Australia and New Zealand would be fairly similar, and I imagine the same here in the States, that one of the biggest reasons why men take their life by their own hands is because of a relationship breakdown. And for you to speak so openly,
right,
not in such a negatively skewed way about the healing process and everything that you went through, is very interesting to me, because a lot of people, whether it's pure hatred or it's just the heartache and the heartbreak of the whole experience, they tend to belittle or speak extremely poorly about their ex-partner. And you've not done that, which to me I find very interesting, because I believe it's part of that healing process. Not that I've been divorced, but from relationship breakdowns in the past, I know there have been plenty of moments where I've just wanted to make them sound as terrible as possible, only because I wanted to uplift myself. I think a breakup is more so a redirection than anything personal. Obviously, there are things that can happen that are bad, but as you've said, you've come out the other side, you've healed, and you're very grateful for it. Would you mind if we did sort of dive into it a little bit? Because I'm sure there are people, and feel free to say no, but I'm sure there are people who are in a position,
of course,
where they're wondering, like, is divorce an option? Is it? How do I move through it and heal from it? Is the grass going to be greener on the other side? For you, what made you sort of know it was time for it to be done, that chapter?
Well, and I really want to respect my ex-wife's privacy too, but I didn't choose for the marriage to end. I was happy, and I thought that her and I had some, a couple of things that had come up during the course of our 20 years of being married that I thought we'd sort of more or less resolved. And so I was kind of blindsided by a sequence of events that, culminating in her surprising me with leaving our marriage to, pursue a relationship with her ex-husband, essentially, you know. So that, I guess that's me not respecting her privacy. But I mean, I don't mean it with any animosity. But you know, really, what I took from it was that I felt like she had told me that she had stayed with me despite having feelings for this guy because she thought I was amazing and kind and lovely, and I just kind of realized, and it hurt, you know, and very painful sort of couple of months. But you know, she was here in the house working through that with me because she was back in New Zealand when I found out, because she was back renewing a visa, and she came back to America for 2 months to kind of pack up her life. And during that process, which is the kindest thing she could have done, and it was extremely brave, because to have been in the position of like, hey, I'm leaving our marriage, and then come and live in the guest room and just be here with our daughter and me, and let me ask all the questions and be angry and confused and try and rationalize it and be like, I know, but it didn't work. So it's just, this is great. What are you doing? You're going to regret this, you know, all of the bargaining and all that happens. And essentially what I could take away from it at the end of the 2 months was that she really was pursuing love over obligation, you know, and I felt like I couldn't, I didn't want to sort of be mad and bitter about that. And I kind of respected it. And I respected that she was being as honest and direct and transparent with me through the process as she could. And that I was able to empathize with how difficult a position that she found herself in, to be experiencing these emotions, to be walking away from a marriage and essentially her, you know, day-to-day involvement in our family, you know. And I actually developed an enormous respect, which probably sounds weird to people listening, but you know, just knowing her as a person and knowing that she's not a crazy person and she's not an unkind, she's the loveliest person, you know. And it's like, knowing what that would mean to her, like, you know, I really respected her courage in it, and I also was able to accept that if she's 95% in with me, well, I actually deserve someone who's 100% in with me, not 95% in there because, well, you're so great, but I really love someone else, but you're so great, I want it to be you, which is, you know, something she articulated to me, which is really kind, you know. But I did actually had, you know, by the time she left and we went back to New Zealand, we all flew back together to sort of take her home. And for the last couple of weeks of her time in America, we were going out for dates, essentially celebrating really what was an incredible 20 years together, and just accepting that that chapter had ended, you know. And so the healing process took a lot longer than that, after, you know, being in New Zealand and then coming back, and sort of the reality of being in our home, and it's just me and Nika, and there was some logistics and a whole new relationship I had to learn with my daughter, because she was used to me being dad who's working all the time, in my studio or whatever, and then I'd come up for dinner and just be, hey, how's it going, and play good cop if they were having some tension, as teenage daughters and their mothers are prone to do. Like, that's a very normal thing, like, you know. But you know, my ex-wife, you know, Angela, was Nika's person, and they were extremely tight, you know. And so to then step into that role of day-to-day dad of a teenage girl, I had no idea, and it wasn't something I'd done. And you're very kind when you say to me, like, you're a great dad or whatever, and I'm really trying to grow into that. And I haven't always been a great dad, and I haven't really known, you know, the extent of the deficit of my parenting, you know what I mean? I hadn't been cognizant of what a shitty job as a parent I had been doing, until I was confronted with the reality of the kind of parent that my daughter really needs me to be now, in the face of this new reality where her mother is just not here, you know. And it was this huge learning curve, and I think I'm starting to figure it out. I'm starting to be able to give her the space she needs, but the closeness she needs, and the attention she needs, but also the opportunities for her to just pursue her own thing without me sort of shepherding it or whatever. So this delicate balance that parenting is, you know, of guidance and care, and then off you go, pedal the bike, you know. Like, I've ran with you for the first 10 feet, but you got to just keep pedaling. Now you're coming off, oh shit, there's the lamppost, oh well, you know, pick it up. Like, it's been terrifying and amazing, and I'm so grateful for the season of closeness that I've had with her since, you know, 2022. And she's 19 now, and as I say, an amazing music maker, and you know, the opportunity to watch her become her more completely has just been amazing. And as I say, the closeness, like, we have coffee dates, we, you know, there's things we're working out that we can talk about, and there's things that we're working out that we can't talk about, and there's Can you get me this from the supermarket? Oh God, that's embarrassing. You know, it's all part of it, and it's just been amazing. And like I say, I don't claim to be an awesome parent or whatever. I'm just trying to figure out how to really give this young human everything she needs in terms of the tools, so that she knows her worth, that I want her to have no doubt ever that her father just adores her and thinks she is absolutely spectacular human and deserves nothing less than that from any other humans in her life who she may come to meet in the future in terms of relationships and things like that. I don't want her to be trying to fill a void because I didn't give her what she needed in terms of the confidence that she is incredible and spectacular and worthy of just being treated incredibly well, so that she would never settle for something less, things like that I think are really important as we guide our daughters particularly, but our children in general, but daughters especially, into the next phase of their life where they will be finding their own romantic partners and figuring out all of that stuff for themselves. And, it's big. So, that part of it's been amazing. The forgiveness, when I came back to America after taking Angela back to New Zealand, I went to the woods for a week with some friends, and I kind of sort of think of it like I found some things in the woods and I left some things in the woods, and it was a really transformative time. I spent a bunch of time with it was a men's trip, and we went trout fishing, and I spent a lot of time by myself and did like a 5-mile hike every day in the woods, and was on a real fitness kick, and just trying to really eat good and just get my mind really focused on not what I'm trying to do or achieve from any sort of material perspective, but what kind of life do I want to live? What do I want to embody in terms of my values, and how can I really bring the best? How am I going to Geoff Duncan the shit out of this life? How am I really going to, how am I going to make it count for something, given this opportunity that I have of a bit more bandwidth, a bit more focus, a bit less responsibility for another human peer, like a spouse, like, what am I going to do with this opportunity, So that was quite a transformative and pivotal moment,
There's so
wow,
many.
I have, like they say, the world is your oyster. It's like, yeah, you're presented with this sense of standing at the edge of a yawning chasm, as they say, and that can be terrifying, or it can be extremely exciting and exhilarating. And I think at times it's been both, honestly. But perspective, like the mindset of, this is an opportunity for me to really examine my values, examine my motivation, what kind of man do I want to be, and I was none of the things that I aspired to be. I was fearful, I was insecure, I was lonely, and just kind of miserable. And I mean, all those things are fairly natural in the wake of something like that. But I was also sort of hopeful and optimistic, and I'm an idiot in the sense that it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I'm really hopeful and optimistic, and life's gonna be great, like I can be just desperately broke. It's like, nah, it's gonna be sweet, man. The check is gonna come tomorrow. It's gonna be fine, and whatever. Delusional, probably, but I think that process, has been so materially transformative that I can't look at it as anything other than an absolute gift, in the sense that to be able to heal and forgive, and really tangibly forgive and let go, and I honestly don't harbor any bitterness about it, and that makes me really proud of myself, because I know that I only got there because I worked for it, and I'm not like, oh, sure, trample me and leave. It's not, I don't feel that, I don't feel like either diminishing what it was is the answer, or blaming or being bitter. I think I accepted it fully. It was like being hit in the face with a fucking freight train. It was not fun, and but at the same time, to quietly and steadily pick yourself up and walk forward, and just really arrive at a place of forgiveness and wholeness in yourself, I think has to be the goal. And I've tried to share with people who have talked to me about other friends who are confronted with the fact that their marriages are ending. And I've connected with a bunch of people who have been like, hey, I got your number from Dad. They said you've been through some stuff, and I just wondered if I could meet you and talk to you. And yeah, become sort of good friends, very close friends with some people over the past couple of years who have been going through similar experiences. And if my experience, if my journey can help someone get to a place where they're not bitter, they're not fractious with their ex, the kids are not seeing this tumultuous unraveling of the universe, because I think for a lot of kids it's so traumatic when mum and dad are their universe, and then not only they're not together, but they're actually just trying to destroy each other. I mean, it's so toxic and harmful, you know. So if anything I've learned can help someone get to a more sort of tranquil place with dealing with all of that, and a real sense of happiness and forgiveness and understanding and acceptance. And look, and maybe in their situation, it's not that their wife was in love with someone else. Maybe it's just she just went and had an affair, and it was a really shitty thing to do, you know, and there's no nobility in it whatsoever. I think you can still get to a place where you just accept that you deserve more. And that's where people talk about the self-worth thing. And I think it's a huge part that I hadn't really understood. I heard about it for years. Oh, you got to know your worth, you know. Oh, yeah, I think I'm cool. I think knowing your worth is really like just an innate sense of, I just deserve at a human level, some respect and some commitment. And if I'm leaning in, I need reciprocity. I mean, reciprocity was the biggest word for me, and I think it probably always will be a very hugely important word. And it is really important. And I think if someone's having an affair on you, you can choose to be bitter and go to war and all of that sort of thing, or you can just accept that chapter is ended. You deserve more. You deserve reciprocity. You can always be like, oh, it's a reflection of me. It's like, it's a reflection of someone's ability to lean into you and work through things. And if it's not reciprocal and you're not leaning in together, then it's a painful process to disengage that. But the reality is that there is happiness waiting for you on the other side of that healing. And, you know, Lord willing, you'll find love again. Like, you know, I mean, and the most healed and best happy version of yourself is going to attract a far more healed, happy version of the person that's probably going to be a better fit for you in the first place. And I think accepting and letting go of some of that stuff, like the hurt of the rejection and the sense of failure and all the things that go with a marriage ending, and it's big, and I'm not diminishing it, like, but I really just felt like I arrived at this place where it's like, man, I didn't have anyone to tell me this. Like, everyone's like, oh, you're going to get through this, and it's very hard to see that when you're in it. But knowing what I know now, I really want to help other people understand that too. Like, you know, you are going to be okay. Like, it hurts. It really hurts. It's hard. It's not going to happen like that. But, you know, forgiveness and wholeness are attainable things. I mean, and it's like anything in my life. Like, if I can do it, there's a really good chance you can do it, and probably better. I mean, I'm not that awesome, you know. I'm not. It's just, I'm just a dude. So if there's something that I'm doing that someone's like, wow, that's awesome, it's like, man, well, if you apply yourself, then you probably do it better than me, because I'm a horrendous procrastinator and I am really good at talking myself out of things, you know. So go get it. You know.
So much there that we could dive into, and appreciate the honesty with all of that. For me, there's some really key things that sort of smacked me in the face around moving through that healing process. And I guess what I would take away personally, you know, you said you did that a week away with your mates after, which was, you know, time just fishing and chatting, but also time with yourself. Many men don't spend time with themselves. We avoid it like the plague. We are very uncomfortable in our own head. And as you were saying, all this whole experience for you, because you chose to take responsibility, and as much as it hurt and it was painful and it made you feel certain ways, you were growing into the best version of yourself, so that when that next person comes, they're going to get that best version of you. It's more rejection's a redirection. It's like, okay, do you want 95% of someone, or do you want 100%? 100% is always better. That's what we're striving for. But taking moments, whether it's blokes trips, man, I'm a big believer that all of us should always have time with our buddies. Like, we need to be interdependent. We need to have stuff going on in our life, so we are reminded of the value that we have. Because sometimes when we become codependent, we lose that because we're so focused on the unit, which is also very important. But we need that interdependence to, once again, be reminded of how fucking awesome we are. When you were talking about
Totally.
there was something else that you said that was phenomenal. The honesty that you had with your ex-wife. Like, to me, one thing that Amy and I try to have is complete honesty and transparency. And sometimes we say things to each other that, isn't nice to hear, or maybe, truth hurts sometimes, but we're doing it because we want to be better or we want the best for each other. A lot of people avoid that. They don't know how to sit with the uncomfortable conversations, or a lot of men say, I don't know how to articulate how I feel. I'm like, okay, well, is that going to be the reason why you don't solve a problem going on in your life? Or should we start learning how to articulate how you feel? And I guess that also is what drew me to you, Geoff, is your music is like you run so much with the emotion of it. It's like I love your work, and I've told you that, but I generally listen to your work while I'm doing my thing, right? While I'm getting inspiration, and whether I'm creating content or whatever, it's just like what gets me going, because it makes me feel things. And I think part of the beauty and the benefit of that is when you can get in a situation where you're allowed to feel something, the next step would be, how do I start articulating what I'm feeling? And for me, that is writing, or it's creating content. But while that may seem odd to some people, it's like where that really adds benefit to my life is how I can communicate on the podcast, or how I can communicate to my wife or to my parents. It's like, because I've done that work. And so don't shy away from it. And Geoff, how you've spoken about this whole experience, and nearly had me tearing up there at one point when you said, she chose love over obligation. And I was like, fuck, never thought about that before. And I don't know what I would do in that situation, because part of me is someone who's like, well, we're raising a family together, like we're in this. But I can also see the other side of like chasing love, because you deserve that back as well, right? Like it's not just staying together for the idea of it, the obligation of it. I've never thought about that. So that gave me a bit of a smack between the chops. And I can't imagine what that would be like to go through, dude. I just can't imagine.
No, I mean, it's not fun. And any of us we've all probably been broken up with somebody. And I don't think either shoe is easier to wear in some ways. They're just different, But like I say, I feel like there's an enormous hope for healing and growth. And like I say, I never thought I would get over her, when it was all happening. I thought, I will never fall in love again. I will never get over this woman. I couldn't see a way that I would ever be okay, honestly, and you heal and you move on, and you grow, and it's okay.
Do you feel you will still always love your ex-wife?
I mean, that's so funny. Well, no, it's not like that. I don't love her. No, I mean, she's the mother of Nika, like she's someone who's been someone special in my life since I was 18 years old. We got married when we were 30, but like, and we're not like in touch a whole lot, honestly, transparently. And it's kind of like, I have moved on, but my goal for her and I as parents was always to be like, when Nika gets married or whatever, and we show up, and it's going to be lovely, not just friendly, amicable, like genuinely lovely. I mean, and more than amicable, And so she came over for Nika's graduation in the summer with her parents. So it was so lovely to see them all. And I just let them have the house, and I went and stayed with a friend, because it's like, this is going to be great for Nika, And I'm not like a saint. Like, I'm not like, oh, I will go and sleep on the field and you shall have the home. No, I have a friend I was staying with. It's fine. But I, wanted Nika to have the benefit of that time with them, because it had been a really tough year for Nika too, very, very difficult. And so, but, and I would come around and we would have a coffee on the back patio and just sort of chat for a few hours, and I'm going to get back to the house. But it was pretty chill, and we were still working through some logistics for our actual divorce proceedings and all that, which was, that's a whole thing, but it's, that's fine. And we kind of tried to keep it all as chill as possible and just get it done. And I remember we went to the lawyer's office here in Franklin and signed everything up and chatted and, with the lawyer and signed everything. And in the elevator, we were just hugging, and it was like, if that's how you can get to the place of sort of just enough respect for each other, if nothing more, like to be like, this was an amazing chapter of our lives, and this chapter's ended. And if you can accept that and get to a place of sort of wholeness with it all and just forgive it and, and be grateful for it, I think it's a very, very freeing place to get to. So there's no animosity there, that, and we're not like, oh, hey, how's it going? But she'll reach out to me about things and check in on Nika and stuff like that. And it's all very, very chill, So I hadn't thought about it in the sense of, will I always love her? I think, I'm not going to pretend there wasn't a lot of hurt involved too, even though I've forgiven it. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm forgiven and I love her. I think that's reality. I think there'll always be concern for her. Like, I wouldn't want any harm to him. I want to know she is okay, sort of thing. But I think it's definitely, I'm not trying to paint it like it's oh no, we're best friends and we hang out all the time. It's not that either, but there's definitely no hard feelings or animosity around it either. It's a much more neutral sort of thing, I think,
To get to that point,
to be fair,
Yeah. No, I was just curious because I've been asked that question myself in regards to previous exes and stuff like that, and you never really know what to say. I'm like, I really enjoyed that part of my life. There was obviously, I'd done things wrong and vice versa, but a lot of that had shaped who I was, and I really did have good times during those years. Otherwise, why would I stick around? And
yeah, and I would definitely say that too. Like, it was an amazing 20 years, so I would definitely say that.
Yeah.
And
for me, then it's like, just once again, not dismissing the hurt that you experienced and what you probably still do think about, but because you've taken such a, I guess, really empathy, would even be the word. You've tried to remove as much pain from the experience as possible. It's allowed you to heal. I think if you wanted to hold a grudge and be bitter about it, it's like you're never going to move forward. And as you said, you're never going to be that best happy version of yourself for that next person, or even just most importantly for yourself, but for that next person. You don't want to draw out a divorce and be full of hatred. Like, that's just not a fun way to live. And you were saying, like, whether you're optimistic or just, silly sometimes, but it's like, to me, it's like, you may as well be optimistic. You'll deal with the pain and the bad shit if that happens, but there's no point being pessimistic because that's not a fun way to live. Like, if you were to choose, be at the fork and one's like, your life's going to be shit and miserable, or your life's going to be full of, adventure and excitement and happiness, you're always going to take that left lane. Like, for those watching on YouTube, I'm pointing left. It's like, that's the choice. But many of us mentally don't think that we have control over our thoughts. Like, our first thought, no, it's always subconscious. It's like maybe things trigger certain things, but our follow-up thought we're in control of. And the more you flex that muscle, meaning you practice thinking about or visualizing or creating the life that you want and how you need to show up in order to be that version of yourself, the more conditioned you become to go like, I woke up this morning, I was like, fuck, I don't want to get out of bed. And then the second thought's like, yeah, I do. I get to go read a book, or I get to go for a run, or I get to do whatever I want to do, have my coffee. And that's just conditioning. And I think the beauty of understanding that we can control that second thought, it puts me in the belief that we can create, the most insane life that we want, the one that fulfills us and has us around incredible people, experiencing incredible things, so that when we are, 95 years old on our fucking deathbed, we're looking back going, what a life. That was epic. Rather than being the old dude on the, bitter old man on the bed going, fucking, I'm still married, pissed off at my ex-wife from 1943. It's like, doesn't matter, man.
And it happens. People live in huge bitterness, and bring no joy to themselves or the people around them. So yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I think life, for all we know, we get one shot, right? Like, so we don't always get to choose what happens to us, and we've all seen these memes a million times, but like, we don't get to choose what happens to us, but and we're not always in control of our thoughts. I was listening to you say that thing. I was not always just like determined about how I was going to navigate this. I spent many months feeling so wrecked, really, really wrecked. So I'm not trying to be like, I am some superhuman guy. It's real easy. It's not. It's not easy, and the answers aren't easy. And it's like, but you're right. It's the second thought, the deliberate act. The discipline. The one that says, I am not just what happens to me. I am, and I'm not just the bag of skin and bone that I'm in. What does the driver think? What does the one looking out through the eyeballs think? Like, what's the essence of me gonna do? Because the essence of me isn't feeling the emotions. The emotions are the chemicals happening in this soft bag of muck, that's walking around wrapped in skin. That's the chemicals happening. That's the emotions. What does the essence of me know to be true? Because I'm not the chemicals. I'm the vapor that's looking out through the glass balls. You know what I mean? I'm the driver. What that's the essence of me, like not the chemical compounds in the blood and bones. That's just the suit we wear. Like, so what does that piece of me know to be true? And it's like, well, I know that I have so much to offer. I know that I love people. I know that I'm definitely a man who can. I know I'm a man who can love well and wants to share and create and inspire and just be hopeful myself. And it's like, if you can connect with that piece of you sort of separate to the pain of the emotions and separate to the circumstances, and be like, and I'm just saying this on the fly, I haven't sort of thought about it, but I just feel like it's true for me. Like, I think I just was able to separate who I think I really am inside from the shit that was going on, just to kind of differentiate, like, am I just gonna be like, oh, that hurts, and so now I'm just fucked forever? No, it's not gonna work. It has to be like, my life has to be awesome. I have to show my children what it's like to recover and come back strong and take control of my life and make something of it despite the hardship that it's had.
That's
And so I think, yeah, that second thought, that determination, man.
huge point there. Earlier, like, I want to Geoff Duncan the shit out of it, but it's also now, and this probably move into the kids, but it's like, you are the role model as well. How you respond to adversity, or react, however we want to look at it. You're setting an example for your children, and the way that you and your ex-wife have handled this with honesty and support, and obviously, once again, we're not dismissing any of the fucking heartache and all of that sort of stuff.
Sure.
But
yeah.
The way that you guys have done it, even from what I'm hearing, it's so admirable, and it's teaching. I'm learning a lot. I'm sure your daughters are as well, around how to show respect for one another, how to live your truth, right? How to love over, it's just such a unique thing to see and experience. And it takes such a unique individual to be able to provide those lessons. And you have touched on the fact, you said you're learning to parent. As I'm not a parent yet, but I'm going to experience that at some point, I would imagine. And we're all figuring it out, and it's going to be unique depending on the person staring back at us. But if we hold off from having a crack at what parenting should look like, you're never going to learn. And as you said, you're getting better at it. You're understanding the boundaries, what you can talk about, what you can't talk about. And all of that's such a beautiful experience that no one will ever get to take away from you. And no one will ever truly understand like you and your daughters do, right? Like, and that's just probably one of the greatest gifts you could have been given, right? Because now you're not just coming upstairs, eating dinner and saying, "G'day, I'm here, I'm good cop." It's like you're truly molding their life. That's fucking awesome. I think I really want any men who have children, and a couple of my good mates, Geoff, when I met them, they were all like me. We were like tough rugby boys, didn't really show emotions, but watching them when they had their kids, all had sons, funnily enough, they just turned to, when I say water, it's like they became vulnerable. They started being like, man, I've now got this little human being that I've created that I'm in control, like I'm shaping their life. And I don't want to be the dude who just turns to the bottle all the time. I want to be a better role model. I want to get my health in order. I want to make sure that I can have my finances in order to be at home when I need to be at home, or want to be able to show them how I feel, and all of that sort of stuff that we think about but don't necessarily take action on. And so you're doing that. And I wanted to ask then, so especially with Nika, you guys have done a song together, and you've also got a project together, right?
Yeah, we've done a bunch of music together. We have a project for TV and film called Hovding, which is the name of a Norwegian ship that traveled to New Zealand in 1872, carrying Nika's ancestors on her mother's side from Norway, and that word also means chief, which is kind of awesome because she's kind of the front face of it, and so it's this badass kind of girl with long hair and a hood in the woods looking like a badass, and it's this very dark, murderous, Viking haunting cinematic music, and it's super
Yes.
rad. So and we that's we work with a company out in LA that lands that on TV spots and things like that for us, So it's been super fun, and I mean she holds her own in that. Like it's not like, oh, here's the song, here how it's gonna be. She'd be like, that's lame, let's beat that. Here's the melody, here's all the vocal stuff, and she's bonkers at vocal production. Like she makes all these amazing layers of things, and it's just like so ethereal and vibey and cool. It's like if Enya was a murderous Viking instead of a sort of sweet whatever Enya is, Irish sort of
Isn't she living in a
fairy in the
castle
woods.
now
Like
with cats and stuff?
probably, I mean, she sold 80 million records or something. It's like she's massive. But yeah, so it's super cool. So yeah, just being a part of that with her, and to your point before, you said you're sort of molding your kids and shaping. They're inspiring me. They're molding me. I'm learning so much. They're an enormous amount of teaching comes from my children to me too. It's not like a one-sided thing where I'm like, I will impart to you the wisdom of the parents. It's like, fuck off, Dad. No, it's like they really have so much to teach me too, and with how Nika and Asher have both sort of grown through this situation, and I mean, hugely inspiring to me too. So it's not, and I can't sort of segue out of that piece of the conversation without giving so much credit to a few very close friends who would take my calls at 3 a.m. for months. And there's one particular good friend of mine, Luke, who lives in Newcastle, Australia, actually, and him and his wife and his brother lived with us for 3 years playing music in America and lived in our guest rooms and stuff,
That's
so they're
awesome.
like family. And I've been out to Newey a few times for Joel's wedding and stuff like that, and really dear friends. And Luke, like every day, like it was really only the past 6 months or maybe even the past 3 months where we just didn't talk every single day. You know what I mean? And and so he was there for me, like, and I got some friends in town here, Dustin and Aaron, some guys who really would just pick up the phone or come and check on me, or through some freaking dark days, man. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to do it by yourself. You need, I mean, brotherhood, really, but closeness. You need people who you can rely on to be like, I'm not bored of hearing this. You can tell me what you need to tell me for the 100th day in a row, and it sucks, and I'm here for it. You have to find those people and lean on them, and hopefully one day you can reciprocate, but hopefully not through the same kinds of circumstances. But maybe once you're healed and better and you crush your business and you have your big yacht and your super yacht, you can take them on a trip to the Greek islands to reciprocate or something. But like, yeah, full credit, man. I did not get here by myself. My children have played a huge part. My friends have played a huge part. You know, um, so that's important to acknowledge.
It definitely, yeah. The environment and the company that we keep is more important than many people give credit to. And I think in life we will grow apart from people, and that's completely okay, dependent upon what we're looking to achieve from our life. But one thing I feel is very underutilized is what we can learn from having conversations with people who are older than us, who've lived, maybe 30, 40 years more than us, because they have perspective, right? And perspective, you can learn stuff through your own experiences, but you can also learn from other people's experiences. And there is, I think a lot about death, Geoff, and I don't want to be morbid on it, but I always think about, because I podcasted my grandfather just before he died. He was 94 years old, lived on the farm since he was 14 years old. And we didn't have an incredible verbal relationship growing up, because he was just the tough farm guy that I would follow to the chook pen and watch him brand and ride around on the motorbike with, but we didn't communicate a lot. But I still always,
Mm.
there was something I admired about him, and it hasn't been until I've thought about it now that I do. But anyway, he moved in with my parents in town during his sort of last 10 years, and we developed an awesome relationship, like communicating, and I started podcasting it. just asking him questions about life, what he would have done differently, things that he enjoyed. And, he ended up being an incredible painter. Like, a farm boy is now painting. It's fucking mind blowing. But what I learned from that, I was
Wow.
like, okay, well, he's probably also spoken to people who are alive in the, the 1800s, right? 1850s or whatever. You know what I mean? So what he can tell me about life, I took for granted until, ultimately it was almost too late. So for me, one thing I really encourage people to do is speak and learn to people who are older than you and have more experiences. Also speak to people who are in the same, I guess, season of life as you. Once again, you get perspective, you might get feedback, you get support. And finally, it's like, speak to people who are younger than you. I podcast with my cousin, my nephew, who's 12 now. And the way he sees the world and the questions that he asks me, I'm like, holy shit, I never thought about life like that, or I never considered that. And all of these different perspectives are helping me understand myself more, but also create better direction around what I want and what's truly important to me. But if I was only to continue listening to Lockie, like, I'm fucked because it's not fun in my head majority of the time. And I still don't know so many things. So that's why I'm very grateful that I get to speak to people like yourself, Geoff, who has, the hardships that you have had are going to help me at some point in my life. Even just hearing things about building relationships with your daughters and the importance of that, but also giving credit to them from learning. It's like, awesome, tick. I'm going to make sure I'm aware of that. And I hope that other people who are listening are gaining those same feedback. And so definitely never undervalue the people that you get to have conversations with.
Totally agree, man. Totally agree. I mean, we only know what we know. So if we stop there, it's a fairly limiting perspective, Even if we know a lot, it still runs out,
100%. What's something that you're most excited about in your life right now, Geoff?
I'm on this creative streak that has kind of emerged over the last probably year, but in the last 3 months, it's really sort of heightened. And one of the ways that is being able to be expressed into the world is I'm working on a few music projects that are really different from each other. But one is this electronic duo here in Nashville called Nawas, and their first proper single from this collaboration came out today. Ironically, it's called Made for Love, and it's just like this electronic music that's hard for me to kind of say it sounds like such and such. It probably is inspired by the fact that Fred again is probably the most inspiring artist to me of the last 12 months. Like, his music is incredible. Not everyone's going to love it, but for me, I love the emotion and tangibility of the way it feels, even though it's largely electronic music. But he did a Tiny Desk concert that was just magnificent. I think he has just such a beautiful spirit that comes across in the music. And even though this music is made with largely synthetic instruments, it has such life and emotion and beauty to it that I just find so compelling and inspiring, and also I love a bunch of the new Skrillex stuff. He put out 2 albums at the start of last year, and ironically worked with Fred again on a bunch of that too. But like, some of that music is really, I come from a very rock background. I played rock guitar as a kid, and traveled playing guitar for years and whatever. So I have a lot of like guitar influenced music. So it's really been cool just to really dive into some electronic stuff. And so that project feels super fun to me. It's super emotive. It's like really unashamedly cheesy in a way lyrically, but I don't think of it that way. I think people who are too cool to be in touch with their emotions would say it was cheesy, but I love cheese. Have you eaten cheese? Like, it's the shit. So I don't regard cheesy as a word that should be used to diminish something. If someone says it's cheesy, I said, oh shit, I love Vermont sharp cheddar. Yeah, it's good. So you like it? No. But and I'm a hopeless/hopeful romantic, and I'm definitely a emotively led person. And so to me, making something that's about wanting to fall in love or being in love, or like this music is about that stuff, and it just has this real beautiful quality to it. So I love that. I also made a friend at the dog park a couple of years ago, by the name of Chris Carrabba, who has a band called Dashboard Confessional, and he and I have started working on a bunch of songs for his new project, for his new record for Dashboard. And that has been just some of the most invigorating music making, in the sense of just going on creative journeys with someone who I've listened to for decades and been a fan of the music, and then never kind of beat his door down to be like, hey, we should write together. I typically wait to be invited, like, especially from people who I would perceive as up the food chain from me. I'm never going to be like, hey, yo, you're a big deal, we should write. Like, it's just not a very Kiwi or Australian probably way of handling our business. I think there's that movie, The Lost Boys, with Kiefer Sutherland from the 80s. And in that, the vampire dad or whatever is sort of trying to date this woman, and he's like, I can't just walk over the threshold, you have to invite me in because I'm a vampire or whatever, and it's like, I'm not a vampire, but I do appreciate the sentiment of being invited into a process like that when it's someone's art and they've already established themselves and are a kind of known quantity in the music thing. I'm never going to ring up someone famous, whether it's an artist or a producer or a writer, and be like, hey, this is me trying to hustle and can we write? I'll always wait to be invited. And so there's probably a lot of opportunities that have passed me by, but I think what's happened is that people who sort of recognize and respond to my energy and vibe, and it resonates with them, then they feel compelled to invite me. So I don't regret that. I don't feel like I've missed out on things that could have been meant for me. I think everything that is meant for me has found me and will continue to do that based on that philosophy. I don't think I'm missing out. Some hustlers out there might be like, no, dude, you got to pick up the phone, call 400 people a day. Cool. I'm not going to do that. So making these songs with him, when he invited me into that process, been really special and cool. And now, some of the collaborators that he's kind of bringing on board to sort of be on songs and feature on songs and help produce some songs and things like that is just, bonkers. It's a list of people that, if I had made a list of people, a bunch of the names would be on the list. And these are people that are just in his world, that have sent texts about the music and love what they're hearing. And it's really exciting, So, and there's a bunch of songs I've made with some friends that have gone into the hands of some DJs that have some just incredible collaborators on them, that you couldn't write a check to anyone for any number to make that happen. That would only happen because someone heard it and was like, I want to be a part of that. So, and I would love to tell you and name drop. I really just can't. But when it comes out, I'll be name dropping that shit hard. But I'll be milking it when it happens as much as I can. And I don't mean that in a sort of vampire way, but I'll be celebrating those releases when they happen too. But so there's a lot of exciting music stuff. I feel like emotionally, I'm not bound up in this other situation of being heartbroken and hurt and trying to recover from that. I'm not distracted by that now. I think I've let a lot of things go, and I am sort of free to just feel my emotions and make music with them, which is how I like to operate creatively. I want to feel something and I want to make it feel how it's supposed to feel when it comes out the speakers, whether it's a song I'm singing or a song that I'm working on with another artist, And so that's been exciting, just really sort of turning the gas back up on this whole, I'm here to make songs and write music and produce and make awesome shit with people. Because I think for a long time it was hard for people. People would come over and write songs, and I would have some kind of, even with Chris working on some dashboard stuff, earlier in 2023, I'd just be having some freaking meltdown because it was just a shit day, And these people have been really gracious and walked with me through some hard times, but also celebrating the fact that I'm feeling good. And they'll be like, how you holding up? I'm like, dude, I feel awesome. Let's go. We'll make some banger. And it's just great. And I think they've stuck by me and seen me grow and heal. And are really, I have people who are just so excited for me and are supporting me, so just I think relieved, but also just genuinely excited that I'm kind of back, which anyone who's been through this shit can probably relate. You just do feel like you lose a piece of yourself for a minute while you just put yourself back together and figure it out, So that's all really exciting. I'm excited that our green card process is moving forward, and we got the red combo cards in the mail the other day, so we're closer and closer and closer. And once that once that arrives, once the green card actually arrives, Nika's opportunities will just blow wide open because she's able then to work in America instead of just being like, I can sing on things as a hobby, but I can't really go and crush it. So I'm super excited for her.
That's going to be amazing.
And also just that sense of stability. I think I've been here for 12 years on a visa that we have to go and renew and travel and spend money and lawyers and all the things. And I think it's I'm probably oblivious to the effect that that's had on me in terms of stability. And I think I'm really excited to get that sense of I can breathe out, because now for 10 years I can just be here. And then after 5 years, maybe I'll become a joint citizen or something, or marry some gorgeous American woman and be here forever, whatever. But I think the sense of stability of not being like the visa's going to expire and who knows if I'll get the next one approved and all of that, it's stressful. So I'm excited about that too, man, just in general stability, because I really want to be like making music, creative endeavors, well, any business endeavor, it takes real focus and discipline and energy, and it's not something you can phone in and do 3 hours a day and sit on the couch contemplating why you feel so low. Like, you have to have material bandwidth to put on the line to make a dream like this come true. Like, you can't, no one I know who's crushed it has done it on 3 hours a day and being heartbroken and living that out. Like, you have to be fucking on deck. Like, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's a terrible industry to, be like, I'm going to go and kill it. Like, delusion is a highly recommended prerequisite, but it's going to work, dude. Like, I'm so excited. And I'm so happy to have that bandwidth back and that excitement and not feeling like I'm just, all I can think about is the pain that I'm in. So happy to be past that,
Dude, you can tell.
So if anyone's going through pain and feeling like that, you will get to that place where you're like, oh shit, I'm thankful I went through that, but I'm thankful that I'm through it, And if you're not there yet, call me and I'll talk to you.
Get amped up with Geoff Duncan, the shit.
Yeah, let's get amped. We're going to Geoff Duncan you.
Need to get some shirts printed. But Geoff, dude,
get fucking amped, mate. Try to make it sound Aussie. What's that film, Chopper?
Yeah,
the best Aussie accent. Oh, mate, it's so good.
Uncle Chop. But mate,
Neville.
Thanks so much.
Shut the fuck up, Neville. No, I love it.
I might have a rewatch of it. It's been a while.
Started talking about Chopper. You're trying to wrap up the show, and I was like, let's talk about Chopper, the greatest Australian. No.
Dude, thank you so much for coming on the show. Where can people support your music, find out more about you as well?
Well, my Venmo is you can find me on. I hang out on Instagram. I don't really hang out on Facebook, but I'm definitely trying to do less social media this year. But I do use Instagram because I feel like it's a much more interactive way of communicating with people about what you're doing, but also supporting what they're doing. And I love the reciprocity of that. And no one rants about politics on Instagram, so for the most part. So Instagram, Geoff__Duncan. Come find me. Come and let's hang out. Let's hang out on Instagram. Become Instagram friends.
All of that's going to be in the show notes, so you can easily click it. But guys, thanks for listening to the episode. Once again, if you enjoyed it, share it, give it a follow so you don't miss more future episodes. We might even have Geoff back on. But mate, thank you so much for your time. I've taken away so much from that. I've got literally a page full of notes, which everyone can find in the show notes. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, man. Thank you, brother. I appreciate your time, and thanks for hanging out. Let's do it some more.